Hey, it's your buddy Tim Schill, and we're coming back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. And I wanted to do two things in this video. I wanted to give you my thoughts on the AMA with the Plarium community managers, and then I wanted to go over the 10 times event that's coming up this weekend. So first things first is the Ask Me Anything session with the community managers. If you haven't been following this, basically on Reddit, some of the community managers posted an Ask Me Anything, which I'm pretty sure that will be the last time they do this, right? Because I don't think it was as positive as they were hoping it was going to be. But they did give us some answers to some of the questions we all have. And I think there's probably three main issues people have with the game right now. The first is the dupe system, especially for legendaries and void legendaries, I guess, in specific. The second is the fear, because they have recently removed one type of developer software on the client side data stream, which was the Mercy trackers. And I have some ideas on that. And the last is the arena, and I'll give you some of my feelings on that. But I think that's probably the easiest thing to fix. So let's start with the most difficult piece, which is the dupe system for legendaries. And they in the thread, they had talked about three different ideas they had, and they've actually sandboxed on how to fix the the dupe legendary system. And it scares me because the one they landed on, the one that they said they're going to use, is you can use a dupe legendary to make your main legendary more powerful. Now, to me, that sounds suspiciously like it's a book, right? A book makes your character more powerful. So I will not be surprised if their solution to the dupe is, hey, exciting news, your dupes will now be worth 2 legendary books. Congratulations. I mean, it seems silly, but I swear to God, I think that's what's going to happen. Because think about it, they can't make a dupe. They can't leave it open-ended, right? Otherwise, you farm a bunch of kales and make one giant kale that would be God tier, right? So they're not going to do that. B, they're not going to reward the giant whales who have massive amounts of dupes for almost every champion, and they would just have these unbeatable teams, right? So they have to put borders in to make sure that you can't just build out a champion without. So the number of books they use would keep you from just constantly building it out. And second, it's it doesn't hurt them very much, right? Because you can get legendary books. So your void dupe that you spent big dollars to pull shards with is now worth 2 or 3 tomes. I mean, I hope that's not right, but I got a feeling it's going to be something like that. Now, the second issue I saw was the Plarium pulling the developer program to count Mercy. Now, we can all guess on why they did do that. I think that there is probably some financial issues, but I think there also might be some liability issues for Plarium. If you've watched in the past some of the games that tend to take real currency and turn it into game currency, have gotten sued for making promises that ended up being proven to be false. Now, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to say that they're worried that somebody that just has bad luck could then take his Mercy screenshots and show that the odds weren't what they said the odds were, and maybe that was just bad luck for that player. But I think more likely, I think that they play with the odds. I really do. I think that the 2 times events are only 2 times events if you have fewer shards in your portal. The more shards you have in your portal, the worse your odds are. And I say this from experience. I've done it both ways. I've done it where I keep very few shards in my portal and pull, and I tend to have pretty decent luck. But when I just hoard a bunch of shards to do like one big giant day of pulling, I have terrible luck. I hit the Mercy system twice on voids up to 216 voids before I got a dupe void. And it's because I had so many shards in. And then when I did it less, I got more void legendaries. But anyway, that's what I think. So we'll see what comes out of that. My understanding is they're working with the developer of that to maybe put something on the server side to count the mercy. But the last part is the arena. Now I understand there's some fixes in for silver and bronze, and that's where we're starting. And gold should be next. It seems to me the issue is stemming entirely around old accounts that are sitting in low gold that are just too difficult for up and coming accounts to beat. And it seems to me like you just limit. If you haven't been on arena for a day or two, they should push you aside. They should just say, look, you're going to degrade, but you're going to degrade over here, so as not to interfere with people that are trying to come up through it. So that seems pretty easy. So if you have any other questions, or if there's anything else that is concerning to you, leave me a comment below, and we'll talk about it. But for now, let's move on to the 10 times events, and if we feel like it might be worth pulling some shards. Okay, so is it worth pulling shards this weekend for the 10 times event? Now, I have to say, I don't like 10 times events because I think everyone knows, but I'll point it out again. The 10 times event doesn't mean you're 10 times more likely to pull a epic or legendary. It means your statistics are still the same. So if you're pulling ancient shards, you have a 0.5% chance to pull legendary and an 8% chance to pull an epic. The 10 times refers to the number of champions of a specific champion they put in the pool. So you're 10 times more likely to pick champion A, who's in the pool, than you are to pick champion B, who's not in the pool. Now, you figure there's several hundred epic champions, so you're still more likely to pull a non-10 time event champion because there's just so many more of them. But your odds are in favor of pulling the one you want if you get enough, especially epics, because if you pull enough shards, you're going to get the 10 times event epic. Legendaries are a whole different system. So I don't like the 0.5%. I don't need any more epics. I think I have every epic. And 0.5% on a legendary is just a little too painful for me. I know it seems like 0.5% and 1% aren't that far away, but I don't know. When we get into the 2 times events on the odds, it seems like you just know you're going to pull legendary. Where on a 0.5%, you can pull a bunch of shards and not pull legendary, and it can get pretty dicey. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each champion. I'll start with the epics, and I'll start with the epics that I feel are the worst, and I'll work my way up to the epics that I feel are the best, and then we'll do the same thing with the legendaries. So let's start with Sacred Order in Sanguina. Sanguina is a support-based champion, kind of a healer, a block debuff champion. She's got some utility on our A1. She hits 3 times and has a 30% chance, if you book it up, of reducing the duration of 2 random buffs on the target for a turn. I mean, okay. Utility on A1's good. 3-time hitter is good. Fire Knight could be possible if you needed some support on that team. So, but really, this champion is more probably a Faction Wars champ. So her A2 is not bad. It's a three turn cooldown when you book it to block a debuff on all your allies for 1 turn, and then she puts a big version of the continuous heal on everybody for 2 turns, which is pretty nice. So, would it be better if this were 2 turns to block some debuffs? Yeah, it would. But it's good. She's an epic, right? Pretty good skill. This 4-turn cooldown, A3, where she's going to transfer. She can book this to 100% chance of transferring all the debuffs from herself to the target after she's removed all the debuffs from the allies. So she cleanses all the allies and then transfers them to the target. It's pretty good on a 4-turn cooldown. So it's pretty niche. I mean, you're not going to probably use this a lot. Maybe Dragon hits you with the poisons. She's going to be able to clear the poisons and put them right back on. So pretty decent champion. has a decent HP, really good speed, decent defense, obviously no attack, but that doesn't matter. And no accuracy, which is a shame because she needs some accuracy for this stuff. So would I pull for her? No, I would not. I would not pull for her. So let's talk about the second one. The second from the bottom comes from the Doors faction, and he is this guy. Where is he? Rune Keeper. Well, I thought I had them all. Geomancer. I don't know. He must be new. I thought I had all the epics, but I don't. So where is Rune Keeper? Yeah. Rune Keeper Dazdirk is a support epic dwarf. Again, pretty good stats. Real nice speed, high defense. Dwarves always come with good defense and good resist. They're a hardy lot. But obviously no attack. He doesn't need attack. Decent HP. And his kit is he attacks one enemy. He'll place a leech debuff, which is nice. I think in Faction Wars, especially, putting a leech debuff on the boss will keep you guys alive. You'll live a lot longer with a leech debuff on the boss than if you don't. He can buff this out, book this out to a 45% chance, and it sticks on for 2 turns. So if you make him fast enough, you can pretty much keep a leech on the boss the whole time. His A2 is he has a 50% chance on a 3-turn cooldown to buff all your allies with increased attack, and then fills their turn meter by 25%. Meh. Okay. The turn meter is nice. The increased attack can be nice, but again, Faction Wars and more of the end game content is about living through it rather than tweaking your attack. So, not wonderful. His A3, again, I think the theme here is the removing debuffs from allies. So this guy on a 4-turn cooldown will remove all the debuffs. So he'll cleanse everybody, then heals everybody for 25% of this champion's max HP, which is always a nice thing, right? So you could control the healing based on how much HP you put on him. He also then places the big version, a continuous heal buff, for 2 turns on allies that have a debuff removed. So this obviously is a very, very nice healing mechanic, and will keep your dwarfs alive, especially because there's not any great defensive down or debuffer dwarf in the faction. So he's got a nice ally attack in all battles, and can be a very good addition, especially to Faction Wars teams. I don't really see him used outside of that. So let's go to number 3, which I actually like this champion a lot. I used to use her a lot, and it's Battle Sage. Again, really nice stats, decent speed, decent defense. You can see she's not a dwarf, so she doesn't have great HP. Got some resist, free crit rate and everything. But she's got an attack all enemies on her A1, which is always a nice thing to have. So if you put her in a stun set, she can provide you some CC. And then she places a 50% increased attack buff on all your allies, then removes the debuffs. So the attack increased attack can't be removed. So what's nice is this actually worded weird. She actually removes buffs first and then pushes the increased attack. So if you put her in an immunity set, or if you just want her to debuff, she'll remove all the debuffs first and then put the increased attack. So it's on a 3-turn cooldown. You get her moving fast enough. Mobs and arena teams have a hard time keeping stuff on you. So Torments and those she will remove the freeze before placing the increased attack. So really nice champion. I like her a lot. She does this revive on death on a target ally for 3 turns, and decent 4-turn cooldown. She does it automatically. It sticks around for 3 turns, which is kind of nice. So can be handy in a pinch. And then she's got a pretty nice speed in all battles. So just a pretty good utility champion. Would I pull shards for her? I would not. I would not. Now this last one, if you don't have her, I might pull shards for this one, because this champion, I think, is one of the best support champions in the game. So Ugo is fairly new. Pretty nice HP, attack doesn't matter for her. Good defense, good speed, good resist, got some free accuracy, and her kit is amazing. So she's got a leech on her A1. You can't book that up. It's 35%, but you can increase some of the damage. In my experience, this leech lands a lot. Now I have my Ugo moving very fast. She saved me in Faction Wars for this faction, but okay. So the 5% increase for each enemy alive. So obviously, if you have you're battling 5 people, you're at an extra 25%. So you're at 60%. So she keeps that leech up pretty good. Her A2, as she attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance, you can book it up to 100% chance of placing the big boy decreased defense buff for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. So if you get her the mastery, she can keep it up all the time, all 3 turns. Also has a 50% chance, booked up to 75% chance of placing a block buffs debuff for 2 turns. So your enemy can't buff themselves. The chances of placing the block buffs debuff increase by 5%. So again, basically 100% chance of putting block buffs on your enemies while decreasing their defense on a 3-turn cooldown, and does pretty decent damage on that AoE attack. Her Ugo's Brew will remove all hero reduction debuffs from all allies and removes 1 random debuff from all allies and heals all allies by 25% of this champion's max HP. The second part of this is a really nice arena. Is she will revive everyone with 50% HP and fill their turn meters by 50% if everyone is killed besides her. Now that fits really nicely in with her passive, where it'll place an increased speed buff and a block damage buff on herself for a turn when the last living ally is killed. So you place her in the very back of your arena team, and somebody nukes down your team. She'll keep herself alive with the block damage, go into her A3, and revive everyone with 50-50. So it's a very, very nice skill. I would pull probably some shards for this champion, especially Sacreds. I think your chance of getting her pulling Sacreds would be a lot better than Ancients. So she probably would be worth pulling shards for if you don't have this champion, especially for Faction Wars. But if you need a defense down and a block buff or a reviver, emergency reviver, she could fill the bill for sure. So that was the last. Epic. So let's talk about legendaries. Let's talk about, I think, one of the old school, I think probably one of the legendaries that has succumbed to power creep as this game has moved on. But you can see his stats don't look a lot different than the epics, right? 20k HP, he's got some decent defense, got really, really good speed, and then he comes with a few free stats. But if you get this guy early in the game, I think you're loving life because he's a pretty good champion. But if you're at mid-game or later, you don't really need him anymore. So he's got an all-enemy AoE attack on his A1, which is always nice. It has a 30% booked up to 50% chance of stealing a random debuff. So again, utility on A1, always better than not having utility on A1. His A2 is he puts a 50% increased attack buff and a 30% increased crit rate buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. I mean, again, good for campaign content and early dungeon stuff, but when you get later in the game, this stuff kind of takes care of itself, and you really need more sustain than you do offense. So not super helpful. Here's why he's on this list, because he will heal all the allies and remove all the debuffs. So he cleanses debuffs, heals everybody. The amount by which each ally is healed is increased according to the number of debuffs on them. So if you're against waves that have a ton of debuffers, he'll just heal you to full, really. The amount by which each ally's turn meter is filled increases according to the number of debuffs on them. So by which the amount by which each turn meter. So he'll heal and do a turn meter on a 5-turn cooldown. I mean, this should be 4 5, you can book it down to 3, or maybe 6, book it down to 4. Increases your heals. I mean, he's a pretty decent support champion. He's got speed and really good speed in dungeons by 33%. So he's usable. I don't know anybody that really uses him that has more of the end game champs. So he could probably use a buff. I would not pull for this champion. So let's talk about the next one, which is, and this one surprised me, honestly, because they had recently done, if you were around for this one, where they basically said, look, you pull 150 ancient shards, we're going to give you this legendary, right? And I think actually that's where I got this legendary. I really like her. I think most people that wanted her probably have her, so I'm not sure why they threw her in to this 10 times event, but we'll go through her kit really fast. She has a 30% chance of placing the big version of Weaken for 2 turns. You can book that up to 50%. It does some decent damage. She does good damage and has a lot of utility. And if you have Astralon, she's insane. Those two together are absolutely insane. And if you have Astralon, I would pull shards to get Countess Licks, because building those two out together are I mean, it's crazy. There's videos out you can see for that. So this Mire of Misery, on a 4-turn cooldown, she'll attack 3 enemies. It happens very quickly. And she puts basically 100% chance of placing the big version of decreased speed for 2 turns, and then also 100% chance of removing 10% of the enemy's turn meter by for each hit. So 30% reduction in turn meter, 30% reduction in speed, and the enemy's trouble. Now you've paired this with her A3, where she drops this big block actives debuff for 2 turns on a 5-turn cooldown, right? This is what she AIs into. She'll block the active skills debuff for 2 turns, and then she'll go into this. So the other team, if you book her out with enough damage, the other team doesn't even get a chance, right? I mean, they're left with their A1 skill, if they even get a chance to go after this, where she's just reduced the turn meter and decreased their speed. So, and then her 2 passives are all have to do. Well, this one has to do with Astralon, and this one is she'll fill her turn meter each time an ally receives a debuff. So if you're facing big debuffers and they're not hitting you, like similar with Molly Tankard, but she needs to get hit to increase turn meter. This one just needs the debuffs to hit. So the madams of the world and the places and the people that are putting debuffs on your team without hitting you, she can cut in. So pretty good arena madam counter there as well. So I wouldn't pull for her alone. If I had Astralon and I wanted to team her up, I definitely would pull for her. So let's talk about the next one. And Skinwalker. And it's Hackhorn Smash Lord. I wouldn't necessarily pull for this guy because I had a pretty decent Skinwalker team. I was able to get that faction war done. But if you didn't have a good legendary in this, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. So he attacks one enemy, has a 55% chance of stunning them, which, in any content, stun is an overpowered crowd control device. So an A1 with a 55% chance stun, you can mastery that up to 60%, or maybe you can't. I don't think stun counts for that, but 55% chance of placing a stun, make him fast enough, and he's going to stun a lot of people. So his A2 is why he's on this list, right? He's going to remove all the debuffs from allies. Then he's going to place a block debuff on all allies for 2 turns, right? That's super important. So when you're facing those Valkyrie waves, and when they want to put that, they want to put the shield on themselves and do all those things, you're blocking the debuff from happening on your team. So it'll heal all allies for an extra 10% of this champion's max HP for each debuff removed from them. So he's going to remove debuffs. He's going to heal you for for 10% of his max HP for each debuff removed, and he's going to put block debuffs on all the allies for 2 turns, so nobody can hit you with a debuff. Very, very solid champion. I'd love, although he'd probably be a legendary if they could book that down to 2. He also does a considerable amount of damage. His multipliers are pretty good. So I've run into him in arena, obviously, and he hits hard, and the block debuffs gets very difficult. So this is one of the sacrificing, where he'll sacrifice his HP, 25% of his HP, then he'll attack all enemies. Damage inflicted is equal to 50% of the champion's max HP. The attack is always a normal hit. That hurts. If they let that crit, and you could get this down to 4, he would be a S tier nuker, but as it is, it's only a blah. I mean, this is just an add-on. This is a skill. That's an add-on. His aura is he gives good HP in dungeons, which would help with this as well. So would I pull for? I wouldn't pull for him if I had a decent Skinwalker team, but yeah, if you're looking for a block debuffs, he's very, very good, especially on those bosses, to keep from catching all those debuffs that they're trying to put on you. So all right, last one who I absolutely would pull for, and I might, we'll see. This guy, SS tier support champion, Sacred Order, does everything. If you look at any endgame team in Doom Tower or any of the really, really difficult content, this guy is always on it. So good HP, good attack, good defense, great speed, got some free crit rate and damage, has pretty high resist. So makes him viable for some of the end game stuff. So his A1, he'll attack one enemy and heal everybody by 7.5% of their max HP. He also places a True Fear buff for 1 turn if the target is from a certain faction. I would not put accuracy on him to get any of that done. So if you build this guy, don't worry about this. I mean, if you hit it, great. If you don't, it's not worth taking stats from somewhere else to try to get accuracy on him to get the possible True Fear on specific factions, in my opinion. So his A2 on a 3-turn cooldown is he'll remove all debuffs, which is why he's on this list. Then he'll take a block debuffs and a Revive on Death on all allies for 2 turns. The Revive on Death buffs cannot be removed. So 3 turns, 2-turn block debuff and Revive on Death. If you do this correctly, you can almost keep these up the whole time, which is nuts, right? A block debuff and a Revive on Death. I mean, it's like everything you would possibly need right there. I mean, that's just insane. On a 4-turn cooldown, his A3, increased crit rate, increased crit damage, which helps. Increased crit damage is always good, for 2 turns, and then he'll team up with an ally to attack a target enemy. Decreases the skill of this cooldown by 1 if an enemy is killed from this attack. So he's a really nice ally attack champion. Now, my understanding is this is he only happens to do this every 15%. Teams up with all allies to attack. Okay, so no. So 4-turn cooldown, he ally attacks with this. I believe I don't have this champion, obviously. I believe he AIs into this. So he starts with his ally attack and then moves into his support stuff. He's got a passive with Sacia Flame Tongue, where they'll receive 20% less damage from champions from specific factions. And then when an ally attacks, this is where he has a 15% chance to team up and join their attack. He'll always join the attack with Sacia Flame Tongue. So if you have Sacia, it just makes him even better. Even if you don't, it doesn't matter. He brings a lot to the table. It does take a lot of books, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12, and he's got an ally speed and all that. So even 12 books isn't too bad for him. But S tier, I may pull for him. I haven't decided. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. Leave me a comment below if you have any questions. And we will see you on the next video.